I want to welcome you to the Charly Crawford podcast. Let's ride.
All right, Tanner, we're on, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm ready.
Man, what a year you're having. Number 2 in the world, and you guys are having a stellar year, you and TG. Talk
Yes.
a little bit about your year this year, and what are some of the things you felt like that has contributed to where you guys have been staying right there at the top all year long?
Oh, I guess I went into this year with a new goal after missing the finals last year. I've always had a really great summer. I had a good Northwest about every year and I've had an all right winter, but I never went to Reno. I don't think over 18,000. Never did. So one of my goals was to win a big indoor or big winter rodeo this year, make the American, and then try to set myself up where I'm already halfway home. When I got to Reno, I wanted to have it made by Cheyenne. I think people don't realize how big the winter is. If you tee yourself up and focus on the winter, kind of backtrack a little bit. Like I've always went in the winter knowing I have 80 rodeos. Like I have all year to do it. But I think if you kind of put it in where you act like you have 10 rodeos left and focus on the big ones and try to have a huge winter. And then this year is the first year I've did that. And it felt like it was just so the pressure was off of you. You roped so much better. You're not behind trying to play catch up. Like last year, I was inside the 13th or something at the end of the year, and it felt like we were winning every week. It wasn't huge money to boost me up. The same people were winning, so you're just kind of hanging with them. And if you just have $1,000 week or off week, they're passing you. So that was one of my goals this year is to win, take the winter really serious, qualify for the American, and I mean it's been a blessed year. I can't TG he held amazing for me, did a great job. It's just really been a big year this year, and ready to get to the finals now.
Because you guys got the dub over there at Fort Worth, is that correct? This year or this
Yeah,
winter?
yeah. Actually, my little my mare I got from Trevor Brazil. I haven't took her much. I had her for a year, but I didn't really use her very much. And since Marshall was down, he colicked and had his surgery. Didn't know if he's gonna pull through. He was rehabbing, and I actually had to take the mare to Kentucky to the American qualifiers. The first place I rode her in a while. And me and TG, we won 20,000 over there, won that deal and qualify for the American. And I ended up riding her at Fort Worth the first few rounds over there. And then Marshall he was ready to go, but I haven't practiced on him. Ain't ran a steer, nothing. He was at Outlaw Equine. They do an amazing job. Couldn't do it without them. And got him ready. And I was telling Taylor, my girlfriend, I said, I want to ride him in the short round over there. And she said, you ain't run a steer on him. I said, I'm telling you, there's a God feeling like something's in me. I need to ride him. I remember being like towards the end, and there was one clean time, and we just went and made a good run, good steer, went Fort Worth, got teed up at Houston. That's basically a hometown rodeo for me. That's that and the Gold Buckle is the biggest two on my list, just because that's where I'm from. I mean, it's the best rodeo there is. And I was last out and dropped the ball. That's where the veteran mentality comes in. Where so much you put him in that position, he's not going to mess up. I had the loper, just got antsy, barely broke the barrier to win it 1 second over there. We had won a few circuit rodeos going in. The first week we left, we went Cortez and had a good little run that the first week, went Elko. So I mean, we just started off really good, and it just helped a lot.
Yeah, your last couple partners have definitely been on the experience side of things. And, when you're talking about having a good winter, to me, like I've watched you rope for so long. And like, to me, that looks like your game, where you're able to get that swing off in the box and get ahead of your horse so fast that it looks like that's where you'd think that when you talk about you always have a good summer and try to have a good winter. I was like, that's awesome that you can also dominate with your style in the summer. But like, to me, I would think that winter would be your, your strength.
Well, that's what I think. I've always done better is like in the summer, once you get a run going and get tapped off, that's when I feel at my best is you're going rodeo after rodeo, you're tapped off, your horses are working. But I feel like there's an off spot from the NFR towards the new year. You kind of you're not in the motion very much. So I kind of went to a bunch of amateur rodeos and try to stay tapped off and sharp before the winter. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna treat this winter like I'm 16th in the world. Like I want to do good. And like I said, I was teed up to win two of the knock two off my list, Fort Worth and Houston, and I just messed up. But I mean, it was so I want to go in the same mentality from now on. Like, get home and not sit around and just relax after the NFR. Like, you kind of to compete with these guys these days. It's getting so much faster and stuff. I mean, when there's rodeos, you'll be 5'2" and win 14th, and that's $700. And then 4-7, just that little difference. I think we're staying sharp. Horses are facing. I just think it's kind of good to stay sharp. So that's one thing I wanna work on is not kinda just kinda get in the motion and relax when I get home, get back after it because January comes around and that's the time, so
Talk about how hard it is to stay sharp, but then also not running your horses in the ground because there's such a fine line. That's where I
was
think Driggers is able to do whatever he wants because he's just got an array of horses. But talk about how many horses and what horses you have, and then talk about how the balance of staying sharp, but then also not wearing your horses out to where when you get to the big ones, they're not working.
Yeah, and that's where he's been unbelievable. He's done a good job, and it is I look up to him because he's smart. You put him in a position where, like I said, if 3-7's winning first and then seconds 4-8, like if he has the right steer, he's gonna go at him. But if he don't have a very good steer, he's gonna go 1 second. And don't think he's sitting in the back of his head knowing what's the whole deal's going on and what he needs to do and what he needs to be. But like I have my good horse Claire, she's 8, and then Marshall, my old horse, he's 18 now. And then I have a few other ones, but I run 4 or 5 on them and score mainly, and I rope trotters. I keep them, if something's tight, I'll go at some and just kick them back to the steer. But like you said, you can't. It's hard to stay sharp and stay in the fine line on your good ones because I feel like with me, I don't make runs on my good ones. I just try to keep them scoring and as sharp as I possibly can. And if there's something that I went to a rodeo the night before that was tight or kind of didn't score good, I go home and work on that. And that's about it because they know the play. And then I have a few practice horses I just try to stay sharp myself on.
Man, it looked tight. It looked really tight over there the other day at the NFR showdown that we had there, our Liberty Loyalty Foundation event. And,
Uh,
you and Nikki Northcott roped over there. And, I mean, that one run where you guys blasted 3-2. And then that was the NFR setup, same box, same left wall, same barrier.
yeah,
Talk about kind of when you have a run to where you feel like you've got the average game because, this is you're only your third NFR this year. And, the 2022, then you guys still hold the NFR record?
hey, yes, sir, we do.
Yeah. So your average run there is dynamite. But then when you talk about being able to lay your hair down and go it around and you guys throwing that 3-2 on him the other day, man, that was you guys murdered that steer. It was amazing run.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I look forward to y'all's roping every year. You do an amazing job. I mean, it's one of my ropings. Like I didn't make the NFR last year, so I didn't get to, didn't get to come. But I mean, it's something I look forward to, and it's the only thing that we have to, especially right now with everything going on. That's the last real setup and stuff I've got to practice on and I'm gonna ride Marshall for the first time this year in Vegas. And so it was good for me to go over there and get runs and that set up and get sharpened up for the finals. But, like, yeah, I like to go fast and that's my style. But there's also a fine line I feel like that I've learned that you kind of you gotta set the run up, like, I didn't feel like I didn't do anything extravagant, like, I just hit at the steer, set the run up, and my sorrel finish is amazing, he shuts it down, but I feel like if you do your job to head the steer as fast as you can, but then slow down a tick, open the steer up, Nikki heeled him first legal hop fast, and we finished phenomenal. That's the fastest run I've ever had. I was 3-4 at San Angelo this year. That was I mean, that's by far the best run. It was an awesome run.
Well, and you were so right because it looks so smooth, but it blasted. Like when you hit the line, the rope was coming out of your hand. I thought there was a couple of variables that, when you're talking about what it takes to be that fast, my opinion, steer's got to be good. He's got to be straight. He's got to hit the end of it. but then also you guys got to be ready for it too, because that rope went on tighter than Dick's hat band. And I'm
Yes,
telling you,
sir.
when he hit, he was ready for him, and the finish was phenomenal. And it's like you looked, you blinked, and you looked up in 3-2, but it was a good steer, which because you know what it's like in there. That's one thing to be able to make a blast run, but not every steer in there is going to allow you to do that. You know what I
No,
mean?
not
There has to be some very when you're that fast also, because you can throw that fast, but the steer doesn't allow it. It makes it real hard to make it. And that's where I think sometimes I've seen a lot of young kids and myself too was like going in there and trying to make that steer that fast and running all over yourself because the steer wouldn't allow it. But
yeah.
man, when they threw that steer in there and you talk about teed it up and I mean just knocked a home run, it was awesome.
Yeah, you can't beat yourself. You gotta use what you draw, and then when you draw the bad ones, you gotta use them and stay in the game, and that's where it comes into the finals. The first year I made it, I had my run down, and I had my throw, and it's there when it's not, and, like, there was a steer we drew the first year I made it, like, the 6th round, very low hit it, kinda hopped out of the chute when he left, didn't leave very sharp, and we had all of them knocked down, so, like, that's one you wanna just go take an extra swing, get over the top of him, 4-2, still in 3rd or 4th in the round, but like there's sometimes you have to go catch the cow and stay in the game and use the steer because drawing game this year, especially in the summertime, you get the steers been to so many rodeos and stuff. There's people, I was one of them. We go to the draw sheet and want 62, 62. That's the one to have. And then it's like stealing, but then there's some you don't, it's hard. You're doing all you can just to place on him. So it's a very and to be that fast, like you said, you have to have the right steer. That steer is amazing. He left good, head in the air, hit the end of it, opened up, and we finished good. So to be that fast, everything kind of has to go on the play. There has to be everything has to work out right.
And like you said too, that's the first time you'll get to ride your old horse there, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, with all this going on, and after about I know what he's gonna do, and so I just been practicing on a couple practice horses and stuff, and he's just been chilling at the house because he's old, and I can't afford to lose him. So we're gonna we're just gonna kind of wing it, get ready for the finals. But them 5 steers over there at Europe, and he felt amazing. So I knew then. I went into European because I rode the Coy Rollins old horse Blue, at the finals, amazing horse. But he is so easy to get a swing off in the box on and just super dead, like just super easy. And Marshall's complete opposite. Whenever the gate's banging, you put your hand down, you will go out the back of the saddle and be on top of the steer. And in 23, I actually rode him first in the run through. And I told Patrick, I said, man, I know he's gonna be good, great here. I said, but I've been practicing on this, and I don't want to change my roping and stuff up during like we're here. We need to get after it. So I didn't ride him that year, but this year I've kind of worked on shorting stuff up a little bit, and because he gets to the steer so fast, vice versa the round, I was a cool back and stuff. But he's the sorrel Marshall. He's so touchy. He's like a throttle. Like the first steer with Nikki, I told him I'm sorry because we got called out for crossfire. When I headed him, I pushed up because I was just going to try to catch 5, try to, but just catching on him and them short setups and stuff. If I do my job, catch the steer, set them up, we can be short 4 or 3, just catching the cow every time. So I just overcorrected myself, and he's so touchy. I pushed forward, and he kind of jumped, and steer wasn't legal. So there's just a fine line of it, but I'm really excited about riding him this year.
Yeah, that'll be fun. What talk a little bit about too, like it meant so much to the guys, the military and first responders with you and Kobe Payne and T Wade and Thorpe, you guys flying back and forth from Hondo to my event and then jumping back out and that was a lot of the guys, man, I was like, man, how cool is that those guys took time to show up to the event and it was hard, that was with that Hondo rodeo being on the exact same time now makes it hard for a lot of the top guys, but with you guys chartering back and forth, man, talk a little bit about just kind of the week and flying back and forth in the Hondo and then being able to kind of be there and being around some of the guys that kind of our heroes for, what our military and first responders do.
Well, I remember the first time I come to your roping and just being around them guys and stuff, it just gives you goosebumps. I mean, like you said, American heroes. And I remember doing the ranch rodeo, watching them do that ranch rodeo and just the whole event, man. It was just a fun deal. And then the Hondo rodeo, like you said, being on the same time. I didn't get to go last year, heard a lot about it. Amazing rodeo. But like I said, everybody wanted to be at both places, but I was blessed and the opportunity was Tyler and Wesley and us and Colby for great friends, great sponsors to help us get back and forth. You know, wouldn't be able to do it without them. But yeah, it was amazing to get to go watch some guys compete. That brings adrenaline rush to me, watching them guys, the smiles on their face and watching them do what we do every day and how much they loved it, you know, like they get into it. So I mean it's just
Mhm.
amazing to watch it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like our crowd was pretty good this year, and that's the goal I have, going forward is trying to pack that crowd in there. And but when you guys are back there warming up, and they get to warm up there with you, this the stories those guys leave and talk about, about getting to rub elbows with you and warm up and watching a 3-2 run like live, like those are the things that those guys, man, when they go back home, some of these guys never seen the NFR, and then to be able to see in person, in the NFR type setup like that, it's pretty special. But then when they get to rope, in the same setup you guys do, and that puts a lot of the Monday morning quarterback talk to bed when you actually get
Yeah.
to see and feel what it's like. The
Yeah.
same box, same measurements, same arena. When some of those guys are like, "Hey, I'm telling you, it is that small," and like, yeah, I think it's good for a lot of those guys that might have maybe give a little bit more mercy when they're like, "Hey, I'm telling you that's you can't take an extra swing. It's hard in there." So I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, no,
But
just
I
warming up around them
yeah,
guys and
go ahead.
stuff. Just warming up around them guys and stuff, man, it's just so cool, and it was funny, you know, I guess y'all have, like, a deal where you can auction off and someone buys a header and a healer? Is that how Tyler and
Hmm.
Wesley roped this year with them? Well, it was funny that Tyler and them roped their first 2 or something, and he told Tyler, he's like, "Hey, I wanna be 3, like, go at this sucker." Like, he was pumped and ready. That was cool to watch.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool too because I seen Seaway rode his good horse with him. I was like,
Yeah,
damn, like that's pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah, because
That guy really did because that's
I think he just knows how much it means for them guys and stuff, you know. And like I said, just him wanting to be 3 and stuff, you know, if they slap a 3 or 4 on them and somehow win the round and stuff, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing what they do for us and stuff. We're so blessed. So for to give them the opportunity to have that feeling and stuff, they would never forget it. So, I mean, I thought that was
mhm.
pretty awesome too for him to ride Spur there.
Yeah, and that's a fun auction item, when a guy gets a chance to enter the NFR showdown and pick whoever they want. And I think one of the ranches bought the heel and then picked T-Wade and then picked a firefighter to be able to rope with him. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I
What
said,
what was the plane you guys have the picture of? Because that's a Kid Rock plane. I know Kid Rock. I know the American Badass. I mean, I was looking at him like, did they fly back and forth on Kid's plane? Because I seen where he was playing out there.
I wish we could have flew with him and on his plane. No, we actually flew in there, and as soon as we got off the plane there and, was headed back to the Hondo, when we flew back into Arizona, his plane he played the night before there, so he was still camped out there, so we ran over there and took a picture of it. It's pretty cool.
Gonna say like that's rolling.
Yeah,
Hey
yeah,
Bob, can we
it's
borrow the plane? I'll be right back.
yeah, no kid,
That'd be big rolling.
where's kid at?
So how's practice been going with the EVH virus? What's been kind of the stuff? What's the word on the street? I seen they canceled the all in. There's some breakaways and barrel races they've been canceling. I know they either canceled or postponed the NFR breakaway for the girls. I know the Kimes Ranch $1 million breakaway they moved. They postponed it to I think December 17th through the 21st. But what's going on with you guys? What's been the word out there, and then how hard has this been to practice with all this going on?
But yeah, it's been very hard to practice, you know. Like I haven't got on social media and Facebook and stuff too much because you see so much stuff that ain't true and it's false information, you know. So I just kind of stay out of that. But practicing and stuff, it's been hard. Like I haven't got to ride, like I said, Marshall, my gray mare Claire, I'm taking for backup. Like I haven't got to ride them one time. I've went to they've been at home since last time I rode Claire was at the Hondo. Last time I rode Marshall was at European, and they ain't been nowhere else. So Colby, his horses ain't been nowhere neither. So I got to go over there. I rode his practice horse and got to rope with him, and Thorpe come over and rode both of his horses. We had a good little practice. And then with all this rain, we've had so much rain lately, and you can't just go to indoor. You know, there's a lot of indoors and places to go, but with this virus and stuff, you're kind of just you're stuck. You don't want to call and ask nobody and put them in that position, and also you don't want to go. So I mean, it's just been tough. I mean, the PRCA they've been doing great. They to get us to go and be able to go to the NFR still, just doing a lot of paperwork and stuff. And when they get there, they're gonna unload them, check their temperatures, and check them out. They're gonna swab them 3 times every 3 days. They're gonna swab them like a COVID test, check them out. No grand entry this year. They're gonna when you get there and unload your horses at the finals, you can't stay at the stall. You can't park your rig at the stalls. They got a special spot for you to park it, and they're gonna clean your trailer out, disinfect it, and clean it all. They're going to do everything themselves. So, I mean, they're on it. They're doing everything they possibly can for us to do it. But then again, the World Series, I don't see that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. You know, you can't, there's so many people. I mean, you know how many people go to there and then Arizona and stuff. But I haven't seen, that many bad cases. You know, I've seen a few, but I mean, it seems serious, you know. So I've been just kind of laying low and got to go practice today. Got to rope today. It went good today too. So it's been tough, but it's weird because like the last few years, me and T-Wade was talking yesterday how much we've practiced and got to get after it, and you kind of it's just hard because you don't really feel sharp. You ain't got to ride your good horses. Like everything kind of just feels weird right now going into it. But at the same time, we're blessed to get to go, you know. We're so just kind of got to
Yeah.
wing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, has there been a lot more practice on the dummy? A lot
Yeah.
more loops and stuff like that? Kind of.
I was we went to Chad's the other day and was they did the NFR steers at Chad's and nobody could bring horses or nothing, but you could come watch and help out and stuff. And Chad and the kids that lived there and help him out, all their horses, they were roping them. They actually let us ride a few of their horses and get some practice in on them. So I can't thank them guys enough for doing that. They were actually wanting us to rope them instead of themselves. They were saddling, booting horses up, warming them up, letting us rope them. But me and Dustin Agaskiza was talking, and he's like, "I ain't got to practice maybe one time." I said, "Me neither." I said, "But I tell you what," I said, "I've been going 100% on that dummy. I feel sharp as heck on the dummy." And he said the same thing. So, I mean, that's what been roping the dummy every day. But no matter how much you can get the steers, like me and Patrick went and bought the biggest, freshest in brands. You know, he has his arena, NFR arena built into his arena and stuff. And he told me the first year, he says, no matter how proper and we get ready for this, it's not gonna ever come close to feeling the same as when you get there. And he was right. When we got there, it is so different. They're big, leaving the chute sharp, just everything, just the feel is no matter how hard you try to get it to a T, your arena, steers, everything, you're never gonna get it as close as to that. So I mean, it's just stay sharp on the dummy, got some ropes broke in today. So we're about ready.
Yeah, that was one of the things I remembered one year it was raining a lot before the NFR and our practice was getting it was good, but it was limited, you know, because you hate asking people to go their barns and stuff like that. But you know, with this going on, is you can't or even ask anyone to go over because you know no one's gonna you can't ask that of anybody. But I remember one year I had my speed trainer, and I actually put the barrier up and then I put the barrier up, you know how we all put the barriers up and stuff like that and go at them. I put the I put the Smarty sled, I put the neck rope on the Smarty sled, and then I pulled it until it broke my barrier, and then I put the barrier back up, and then I walked my horse up to the barrier like if his chest got right up there to it, and then I measured from where the steer's head was to where the saddle horn was, So when I got on my speed trainer and I put the sled up, I just measured it the same. So like I would just get rep at like, so if I knew I got a good start, like I had a pretty good idea of like where the head was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I would just get loop after loop after loop, kind of like a free throw shot. Like if I
Mhm.
hit the start, I know the horn's going to be kind of in this vicinity. And that was like the best practice I had where, I think it's good throwing loops on the ground. But man, there's something too, like where your left hand is and the balance in your saddle and being able to use your feet and then kind of also too having that gauge where you know where your swing angle and where the horns are going to be. If you hit the start, and then I would obviously move it around a little bit other than that, but I know that like if I hit that start, the horns are somewhere right here where I don't know, it give me another element to where I could video, and especially like where maybe my first swing was a little flawed or where my left hand might pick up and then go back to the steer when I would throw. Just those little things like that where like just trying to find like on rain days, what little techniques can I kind of work on that, would give me enough reps to where then, all right, now I either get on my practice horse or the weather gets better again. Like I've
Yeah.
got a pretty good idea of like where them horns are where I feel like I'm sharp.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, you can't it's rope on the dummy and stuff, it's not the same feeling because there's a sweet spot in there when you hit the barrier and where the steer's at, you gotta judge it. And I was talking to Clay Smith about it today, there's two bad spots in that setup that I get in. There's one where I think I need to drop a cool, but then he's right there, so judging my distance, like today, I roped the left horn and hit one behind the right because I needed to drop a cool and I didn't because I just was in between swings. And the second bad worst thing is getting beat. The start is everything. If you get a good start, it feels so much easier. But I've been beat at the finals one time in the first round in 23, and that is the worst feeling in the world. I rather, like Patrick always told me and Trevor when we were practicing that year, they said breaking the barrier is better than getting beat and getting outrun because you don't realize how fast a buck and shoots come. It's bad. So when I've been roping the dummy, I've been judging about right where I'm gonna be. Same thing with you did with the speed trainer. I've been judging about my spot where I get two swings off. I don't two swings and throw one. That's about where I'm at. So that's why I've been caulking my rope, just working on the dummy on my run and my throw as much as I can because you can't just go out there and just go reach on the dummy and stuff because it's just not the same. So I've been doing as much as I can to stay sharp, but it's just not the same, as being able to stay sharp and practice up. But we ain't got no much of a decision right now to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, I think you said you come from Angleton, Texas. Is that where you were originally from?
Yes, sir.
Is that considered South?
Yep, southeast, basically. About 25 minutes from NRG in Houston. I'm right on the Gulf
Yeah.
Coast. I'm
So,
10 minutes from the beach. Yeah, I've been there
so
for
talk to me coming from down there. What was
well,
what was team roping like? What was sports? Did your parents rope?
my dad roped, my grandpa roped, my brother roped, so I grew up into it. My grandpa, he was a trader. He built roping. He had a shop and built panels, hog traps, rope and shoots, strip and shoots, goats, bought and sold goats. I mean, he had 50 head of horses around there. He'd get them, flip them, sell them. I mean, 800 head of steers. Like he did it all the time. So I grew up into it, and I mean, just I didn't know no other from since I can walk. I had a rope in my hand, just played around with it and stuff. And I guess whenever I first started roping steers, I roped goats my whole life. I didn't. They begged me. They was like, "Hey, it's time. You're getting older. You need to start roping steers." And I was like, "No, I like roping my goats." Every Friday, me and my grandpa would go to the sale bar, and he'd get me a fresh set of goats. So me and my buddies, we roped goats 24/7. I didn't really care about roping steers, and then my dad got me this little bay heel horse cricket, a little Shetland. First rope when I went to, I'm on a saddle, and just kind of been on ever since then. I healed my whole entire career, and then when I was 17, I was a 9 plus. So I mean, I was amateur rodeo and healing, and then one time, Tyrone he called me. And I was like, "Hey, you want to go to some amateur rodeos this weekend?" And I was like, What do you mean? He's like, you want to go head for me? I was like, I don't head. He said, yeah, you do. Because he's seen me head and all the low number stuff and whatnot at all the rope ins. I would always, when my heel number got higher, I would head in the low number stuff and then heel in the high number stuff. Me and my dad would just rope all weekend.
Hey, friends, if you're looking for something that inspires grit, creativity, and good old-fashioned hard work, you've got to check out Ezra Tech Ranch Gear. This isn't just another brand. It's a group of homeschooled teenagers who are learning to enterprise, building real skills, and producing high-quality gear that stands up to ranch life and beyond right here in Texas. Each piece is hand-tooled by these young men and women themselves, and the craftsmanship speaks for itself. Their truck scabbard? It's their top seller. Rugged, practical, and built to last. If you're looking for something unique for your business, they even create custom corporate gifts with your company logo. And here's what I love. Every purchase not only gets you gear you can count on, but it also supports the next generation of entrepreneurs who are learning what it takes to work hard, create value, and build something meaningful with their own two hands. Whether you're a rancher, a business owner, or just someone who loves quality American-made gear, check out Ezra Tech Ranch Gear at EzraTechGear.com. To get a 10% discount, use promo code CHARLY10. That's CHARLY10. EzraTechGear.com, where craftsmanship meets enterprise and the future is being built one tool at a time.
So the horse I won Rookie of the Year on, I had her. It was my dad. Come from my grandpa. They trained her. My dad headed on her. I heeled. I won my first saddle or second saddle heeling on her also, and then won Rookie of the Year on her. He's like, you got an amazing horse. He said, you hit amazing. He said, let's go. I don't know who he's rocking with. Bull Austin, maybe he couldn't go that weekend. First rodeo we went to was Tatum. We won it, went to Greenwood, and I think I lost my rope or something there and then placed at the other one. And I've been heading ever since then. But growing up in Angleton, I mean, yeah, it was amazing. A lot of roping, fishing, hunting. Like I said, my grandpa, he put on a bunch of ropings, had practices every week. He nonstop. There was stuff going on. So got to be around him and my dad and them 24. We roped every single day. He had guys over there riding 20 head of horses, training them, flipping, selling them. So, I mean, I just grew up into it. There's a lot of guys. There's roping down there. They used to have not much this day, but when I was a kid, they used to have ropings every weekend, 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, there's a lot of guys down there that rope more than you would think. But whenever I started doing it professionally and stuff, just being down there, I would drive up here every week, 5.5 hours to Lipan when I first started roping with Patrick, and it's a hike. And you can't beat these guys up here just practicing down there. Like, there was no feel. Like, once I got to that level, I was like, I need to go and be at the weekly jackpots up here, roping with these guys, staying sharp. I mean, you know it. Everybody, as much as I love home, everybody up here is really not from Stephenville, but that's where you have to be if you're going to do this professionally. I feel like you have to kind of be in the mix of it. So I moved up here in 22. Been in Mineral Wells for coming up probably 3 years now, 2.5 years. It's been good.
When you switched from heeling to heading, do you feel like, because like I go down the rabbit hole of the amount of headers that have been so good, from Speedy to Driggers to Dustin Squeeza to you to T Wade to Clay Smith and Clint Summers. I mean, you go down the list of the guys that are so good at heading now, all healed first.
Yeah.
So I always think what the strengths were, when a guy starts healing and then go to heading. To me, it looks like once you can heal, you can almost do anything. Because I've
Yeah.
watched healers rope the dummy, rope calves. I watch them do. I mean, once it seems like you can consistently heal a steer that's hopping that you're not really exactly sure where they're going, and when you get consistent with that, it almost seems like everything else gets easier.
Yeah, I think healing, since I've healed forever, like you're saying, I think because we see the run happen so much, healing, it helps setting the run up when we start heading, and we kind of know the feeling and the timing of everything. That helps. And then the reason I love going fast and stuff, and that's kind of my go-to, is whenever I would get done practicing healing while I was a kid and roping, I would get on a practice head horse or something. And I thought it's kind of like me these days. I want to heal for the fun of it all the time. That's it. And then you got headers that or healers that want to head for fun. So when I was healing, I wanted to get on a practice horse and go at 20 of them, going as fast as I can. Like that was fun to me. After you do the work and practice serious healing, I would get on a horse and just go at them and play around with my buddies heading. And then at the house, I would rope the hidden dummy all the time. Never roped it at the hip. I would just reach all the time. So that's kind of where that's come from. But yeah, there's like you said, everybody that Clint Summers heals amazing. Driggers heals amazing. You know, like everybody that started out, it's like you said, it's kind of. I think you just kind of know the timing and the run of it from doing it.
Yeah, I do. I think that there's something too, like with your hand height, being able to reach with your hands a little bit higher on the heel side. Feels like you have more control of your bottom strand and keep your top strand above. It seems like those little things like that, especially when it comes to reaching, where, like when I grew up heading, everyone ran to the hip pretty much. So you're always get your tip down because you're in close. Well, then when Speedy showed up and things got further and further back, that's where it seemed like the healers that could keep that strand in a different spot in their hand was so much better than the guys that had it turned over too far down. So there was a little bit of that. But then, I think just the rope control, and then also, like you said earlier, there's so much too. I think, when you seen Speedy that went from heeling to heading, his handles were almost kind of like, I would say, like, his ability to reach, but then still handle the steer, that looked like somebody that healed a lot, where he knew where the steer was because he'd been on the other side of the run. And it seems like there's so much of a advantage with kind of knowing where the steer and where they should hit to where they can heal him. So then when you're on the other side, how can I make that steer go where I know where he's about to be?
Yeah, when I it's funny because whenever I started roping with Patrick and went over there, I used to slide rope and like I could see it, the run happening. And when I didn't know no better. So when I would see him kind of like behind, I would slide rope thinking it helped him out to slow the steer down in the run for him to get there. And that was the first time he told me, he's like, "Hey, don't ever slide rope or nothing. Use your horse for that. You push up and keep everything going." I used to half dally. I knew how to hit the steer and I knew how to hit them, hit them fast, but that was it. And I mean, I've watched you growing up as a kid, admired you. I mean, it's just crazy to watch all these guys and stuff and be able to. But you can tell me if I'm wrong, but professional heading and just doing it for fun is two different things because I did not know how to do the professional side of it because it takes a lot. The scoring, the setting the run up, the handling, the facing. I mean, it's just so much more to it than just heading the steer, it's a lot.
We'll talk about that too, because I've always said this too. I think it's interesting. Like, when a lot of dads, I do a lot of clinics throughout the year. So a lot of dads will ask, which one do you think's the best one to get started? And for me, I like heading first because for one, you can get a good start. You can rate your horse off. If you rate your horse off in the right spots, the horns stay in place. It gives the kid a good chance to be able to learn how to rope, dally, get it tight, because you can control the run. Healing, I like to do a little bit later, but once you get bigger and strong enough, because then I think it's really good for your hand-eye coordination and to be able to kind of read where the steer's going. I like doing it a little bit later. Just like I said, if I was to probably, guess on like what my opinion is, but like I think it's safer in the fact of heading's easier to get started, and I think healing's harder to get
Yep,
started.
definitely.
But I think once it gets to a certain spot, like say a 5 or a 6 and a 7, then it switches. Then when you get to the top level, heading is extremely sophisticated. The
Yeah.
start, the different starts, the head horse, the getting the rope tight, the angles, the facing on the tight rope, there's so many more elements on the head side at the upper level. Just like me trying to tell somebody the other day that like, you go to if I was going to try to explain the start to somebody that didn't understand what I mean by the start, when you have to see a certain steer, when you go to the NFR, the barrier's 4 foot under the box. So they measure it 4 foot, less than what the box is measured. Well, then when you go to San Angelo, it might be 1 under. Then you might go to, Fort Worth and it's even. Then you go to Kennewick and maybe it's 2 over. Then you go to Salinas and it's like, I don't know, 40-foot head start.
Yeah.
Then you go to another one, Cheyenne, and it's a hand pulled barrier. And you're trying to explain this to somebody like, okay, yeah. Then you're going to say, okay, now when I go to Pendleton, now this starts like 38 foot under the box. You know what I
It's
mean? And the
yeah.
fact that like, okay, now, okay, do you have to have a pusher there? No, we've already got someone on, he's on a horse. He's going to push it through there. And you're like, so there's a horse in the chute. Yeah. It's like an 800-foot chute. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
when you're talking about all the variables just throughout the year, for just a lot of people to even comprehend that is wild. But when you think about just the complexity of it, because nothing is not saying that healing's not hard, but when the header does a good job, man, it's so much. That's where you can see the healer really, really show off.
Yeah, and then that's when I feel like healers get tapped off because they're not panicked. They know where the steer's going and they know where you're putting him every time. Like that's when they know where the steer's going, they trust you and knows what everything's going on. And actually I get made fun of all the time. I am probably the only header that's ever not went with like asked somebody what the start is or something. Nobody in my career has ever asked me what the start is because when I first started, I was confused by all that. And I remember going home and talking to Camish about it. Camish has helped me a lot with my roping and stuff growing up. And he was telling me, he said, baby, he calls me baby boy. He said, baby boy, he said, don't do all that. He said, you're different. He said, go. He said, just do this for me. He said, go see what it is. If it's 2 under, see where they're putting the line out there. He said, and go with a feel. He said, you'll know after a while. See your start around the end of the gates and don't worry about that seeing first rib, shoulder. Don't worry about that. He said, go with a feel and and that's where I've never seen, I get there, see if it's even, 2 under, 1 under, whatever it is. And I watch the steer, the end of the gates, and I go with a feel everywhere I've went. I'm just different than everybody. And then another thing, the jump back that he helped me with is, I used to use a real heavy rope. I think I was using a power line or something, and they're real heavier and a little bit dead. And he told me one time I was lobbing it and throwing it to the right of the steer a lot and like wasn't following through, like just wasn't finishing that. And he told me, he said, "Baby boy, you have too much rope control. You handle your rope too good. You don't need that old heavy thing. Like you need to get a little bit smaller rope where you can send it, where it's going and put it on the horn." So he can break down roping and knows roping better than about anybody. It's crazy what he knows. He's helped me out a lot, but it's he's good.
He was ahead of his time. Man, I've always thought when he cracked out, when you'd see him show up, man, he was ahead of his time on both ends. I mean, his ability to see things and his ability to handle that rope and ride anything and do it, like that guy he was just a straight up gangster with that head rope, man. Because I have enjoyed, man, when that guy was up, I ran to the fence.
Yeah,
Like
and
him and JoJo, when I first started seeing both of those, like those were the guys you ran to the fence because it's like, man, watch this. Watch what this guy can do with that rope. And there's so much feel and timing to it. I agree. Cause that's what when I first started, coming from the Northwest and West Coast, everything was to the pin of the chute and the plate of the chute up there. And then when I started going down south, then everyone, or the southeast, everyone was around the end of the gate.
mhm,
And man, when I would go back home, I could talk to the guys there, but the start was, but then when I come back down here and around the end of the gate, like I didn't know how to kind of gauge between the two. So I remember I started scoring around the end of the gate just because there was more guys that were starting to rodeo from the south that I would call and ask where the start was. So I had to learn the end of the gate. And man, I tell you what, for the first little bit, I'm telling you, I'd either run through the barrier or late, run through the barrier or late. When they would say front leg, I would anticipate the front leg or I would either see the front leg and go. And so, like, it was so hard to find that feel. And then finally, what I like, I'm with you. I never really asked a whole lot of people, even though I knew that like my start was probably a little shorter than everyone else's. And what I mean by that is like, if it was front leg, I would see point and then go because my head, like my wife tells me I'm too literal all the time. but like I had to have something I could see. So if I anticipated it, then I didn't know, like, when that front leg would get there and be going, I would always find my shoulders leaking before my hand, like
Mhm.
anticipating it. So like I could just see it, then go. And if I seen point and went, then usually that's about the time the front leg was there, like what kind of everyone was talking about. So you're right. Everyone sees something differently.
Yeah.
I think that's what's about, when guys are talking about learning how to win, once you find that little recipe and once you find that visual, it's kind of yours, because everyone sees things a little bit, especially if it's off a little bit of feel right there. Because if you can hit it time and time again, you said it earlier at the NFR, man, the start sets up the run, good or bad. If you hit it, especially at the NFR, they are there. And that's when you can get them on the shortest line. That's when you got the most amount of room to the left. You hear Joe and Trevor each time always talking about, well, he missed a start or he didn't get a start. Whenever you hear that, the run is you're on defense there in a very small arena, and that's a bad place to be on defense.
Yep, you're in catch mode when it comes to that. For sure. You do not wanna get beat in that place, and like we going back to the scoring deal, everybody scores different. There's so many people that score a little heavier and they see it, and when they put their hand down, they're right into the steer, and then, like, I feel like Dustin and me, we kinda do the same thing. I've always scored a little looser and seen it, and if I think I'm gonna break it, I get a little light pull, but I it's just there it's so different, so it's hard to ask anybody, because everybody scores different. Everybody, and especially the way I do it, it's just differently, so I just go with the feel. I react to the steer, see what I draw. If I got one that leaves the gate sharp and runs a little bit, I know I can see a little bit less and don't have to judge it. But if I got a loper, I'm gonna see what I see and try to get a little pull off. And it depends what the barrier is and stuff. But just like at Houston, I talked about, I had the one of the best steers on them last out to win the rodeo and knew I was on a fast horse and 5'9" there, just catching the cow. You can be five flat. So I should have seen double more than what I'd been seeing. I seen what I've been seeing and broke the barrier, but I should have seen even more and just went and made my run, would have won it. But it's just when you get in them situations, people don't realize your brain is just spinning. And I ain't been in one of the positions in a long time. And the pressure on it as a kid wanting to win that rodeo and then being in that spot to do it is just, it is so different. That's where the veterans come in place, like I've talked about. They've been in that position and failed before. So you got to learn from it and then bounce back also.
Well, talk a little bit too, because I think what you've talked about was a really good point. I think for a lot of young kids getting started, because you know, I think there's so many kids that I see, and I was there for a long time too. Was you just when you went where you're home, you just roped. You didn't see a start. You just kind of went off field and just through loops. And then I start kind of pointing out, okay, what's a start here and there, and like seeing it and hitting it, and then floating and things like that you talk about. Because I think there's two starts that guys see, and I think one start is the guys that gauge and kind of float at the start so their horse stays in the same spot as the steer, so they're able to use their rope to turn the steer. Then you see the guys like Trevor and probably Clint Summers and guys like that would see it and I mean just hit it. Like
Hmm.
when they hit the line, that horse is almost as fast as he can possibly go. And those seem like the guys that would like use their horse to make the run. So there is 2 different styles, and there's also 2 different places too, I think that like, those are you see a lot more horses, I feel like, in the wintertime that are able to cage that steer where you can use your rope, but then summertime, especially in like your big outdoor arenas, that's what it seems like you want that horse, that extra speed that when you hit the line, you're gaining. The horns are coming to you. So I think that is an interesting perspective. Do you feel like between your 2 horses that you have kind of the same scoring technique, or does one horse vary a little bit different from the other?
That's another thing is knowing your horses and stuff. Every horse is different, there's no telling how many you've rode and been through, but my sorrel, if you I like in long score, like at Houston, I grab the saddle horn on him because if you even flinch and try to leak or do anything, he's gone. He leaves off your hand and it's fire. And vice versa. Like gray mare is like my old sorrel mare I started on. I can get a swing off. The other day in the match roping at Uvalde, I had a swing off in the box, and she was still sitting in the corner and ain't even flinched. So, like, you can gauge and pull, do whatever you want on her. She's just so simple and easy. But then there's Marshall. When you put your hand down, or if you even flinch, he is leaving. He's gone. So there's that you got to know what you're working with there. And then you talked about the summertime and the wintertime too. There's times where in the winter you don't have to, like Kennewick. Kennewick's too over now. Steers are fresh. Everything's out there, so you can't hit the line looking for a throw. And then if you do hook them, just wash the steer out. Set it up bad for your partner. You got to see her start and ride to the steer, head him, set the run up, and because it's a three header, it's two and a short there. So that's knowing your setups and knowing the everything about it, because you can't Houston, you can't hit the line looking for a throw. Like, there's just certain places you have to. And after being 5 years now rodeo, and I've got to see about all the setups and know what it's like and stuff, where I can have one horse at especially over the fourth, I got to pick which horse I'm sending which place because we're flying and stuff a lot. So there's certain setups I like. Either one of them are good, and either setups. I like Marshall better for the long scoring stuff, but he's just as I love him for the short stuff too, just the way he finishes. But my gray mare, she's just easier. She don't finish as good, but she is so much easier to head the horns on and scoring. But so there's just a lot to it.
Do you find this is something I remember me and Luke Brown was talking about one time, and he kind of brought this up, and it was an interesting perspective. And he was talking about like when you're reaching, there's certain angles that you want to have on your swing. And he was telling me too that it helps like if your horse kind of coast and like keeps the steer in the same distance, that there's certain angles you can have on your swing when they kind of keep the steer in that same place. And then he was telling me that like when your horse has a lot of gain and the horns are coming to you, when you reach that way, there's a little bit different angles. Do you find yourself between those two horses? Like, do you change your spoke? Do you change your rope? Do you change angles? Is there anything that you feel like that you have to change from one horse to the next when you're talking about one that you can use your horse and the other one you can use your rope?
The only thing I changed on the angles of my swing, I don't change my angles, but the only thing I change is jackpotting. If I'm going all the way to the hip to catch one when they're open or the BFI and stuff, I bring my swing way lower, like right beside me, and get it where I can snap it off of them. But when I'm going fast, I think your first swing and like for the NFR fast setups, your first swing is very crucial. Like, I work so hard on when my first swing comes up to try to get it as level and flat as possible, because if I get it up and high, everything is sent in that direction, I feel like. But if I can work on getting my swing up and flat, everything is in front of you right there where you can see everything happening. And yes, my gray mare, everything's out in front of me a little bit more, so I can use a bigger loop and just. But Marshall, like I said, this year I might have to work on getting a little bit smaller loop and shorten things up a little bit, because everything's going to be happening right now and be way closer and not in front of me. So I'm gonna shorten everything up a little bit this year and work on just catching 10 and setting the run up. But yeah, there's certain deals that I switch up on each horses for sure. But the angles of my swing, no. I think you need to have a flat swing with everything. But I think Driggers he does the same thing. If you watch him when he jackpots, he brings his swing down right here. The same thing when he's going into the steer, he's gaining. He lowers his swing a little bit and gets him on the gain. I feel like you can't have everything up because you OTR on and come off the right. You kind of got to change that up for sure.
That's what I've seen so many kids struggle with is when they watch you guys on the Cowboy Channel and they got their hand up high and they got that angle down to the left, but they're running all the way to the hip. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's where like when everything's so far in front of you, when you get closer, you got to pull it back down. Like Driggers, he explained it good to me one time. He's like, everything's kind of almost on a grid. The further back, the higher your hand, because the rope's going to drop with distance. Well, when you get closer, like you're saying, now your horns are closer, and you got to be able to pull that thing down. So I think that helps so many young kids that knowing what what club to use, when you pull it out of the bag. There's
Exactly.
a driver, there's a pitching wedge, and there's a putter, and a 7-iron. There's times when, you know, you gotta use different clubs and different swings and different angles. But, that's where it seemed like, I watched, for the longest time, like Driggers and Squeezer for the longest time was like they would go at a 5-head rope when they were young and just blast the first 4. Well, then they would just run away with the rope and they would have like 10 seconds to go knock their last one down to win it, but their angle would almost stay the same as when they were reaching, and that thing would come off the right. So like learning how to change that angle when you're running all the way in position to be able to basically like in pool where you're able to get some backspin on that ball and that scratch shot or that wave off shot where you know exactly where that rope is. And that's to me is it's so hard to be able to with young kids, this is like playing basketball. Every young kid's going to want to shoot free, 3-pointers.
Yeah.
But there's times you got to pull a layup, and
Yes.
so you got
Sure.
to know how to gauge your rope and gauge where the ball and the rim are, to where okay, if I just need a layup right here to win this thing, I got to know how to make a layup and finish.
Yeah, and that's another thing is your horse has to read your throw. There's a happy medium spot. I feel like if you're gaining on the steer and you're coming in there and going to heading, he can't run through your throw, but he also has to read your throw and rate off the steer as he's gaining for everything to work out. If he runs through your throw, you're not going to get your slack out and everything, but you also don't want him getting short or dropping out. There's so many perspectives to that. And one thing I do is when I get to the rodeos, I love to go check the draw. I'm a big horns guy. If I got big horns, I get a big loop and more spoke. If I have big, I love big horns. I hate small horns, but big horns, more spoke, bigger loop. If I have steers with nubs, I'm not a net guy. I can't. I've tried. I've been around T-Wade for 4 years now. I've tried to do it. I just can't.
You think you
So
know? Yeah.
I
If anyone's seen more brisket shots than you, then think sure you think you'd have it
I've
down by now.
I've seen steers with the biggest horns on them, and he gets the neck. Like, it's just without trying, but like I said, everybody's different, and, so I like to go check the steers. If I'm at a jackpot and I'm watching the steers, I see one coming to shoot with little horns, I try to size my loop down and get a little less spoke, or if I'm at a rodeo, I go softer rope with a little more kick in it, where I can turn my rope over where it's gonna stay on. So, I mean, like, there's just so much to it as you learn. You can't never learn enough, but there's so much into roping that comes to it.
Yeah, obviously, I remember, like, when I would go to the NFR and stuff like that, and you try to explain, like, to what guys, what that day could look like. You might get up in the morning, and, like, there'd be times for me, I'd hit the gym, and then you'd order room service and, get you 2 eggs and 2 pieces of bacon for like 89 bucks, just to get your day started, and then get on an Uber or rent a car or a taxi, and you'd have to go sign at one convention center. And then in the meantime, you're trying to get something lined out with, a partner and your whoever's handling your horses to be able to find a place to go practice. And then you're on your way to another convention center and, Uber or rent a car, all that stuff. And then, you have 45 minutes to go practice and, you might just be freeing up your good horse for scoring or whatever he would need. Then you get on your other horse, your backup horse, trying to make some runs. So if your healer needed to adjust any things, in and out, back to the room, hit the showers, remember your back number because you can't go anywhere without that thing. And
No.
then, then when you go down there about 5, whatever, it's like 5:15 when I was there, but I don't know what time it is now. But like you go there, like I would always want to see the drop. I wanted to see him drop the token right there to where I knew exactly what I had. So then you go down the list, see who had him, whatever round. Then you'd walk back down, walk down the little tunnel and down the little hill to where they had them all gauged. And I always took a picture of the horns.
Yeah.
Like, and I would just watch. I would have a picture on my phone and I have a picture in my mind. Do they come out? Do they come up? Do they curl? All those little things like that. How did he hold his head? Did he naturally just hang his horns lower than his shoulders, or is his horns up and his head just stays up the whole time? Like to me, like that's where I wanted to put that swing wherever the top of them horns were. Like that's what I would always be trying to measuring. Then you go down to the tunnel and find the media room and try to find, when your steer went. Because like when we're talking about looking at cattle, I wanted to know like how'd the steer leave? Did he leave with the chutes? Was there hesitation? Did he step left? Did he stay right? Did he stay in the middle? How did he handle it? Did he push on the end of it? Did he hit the end of it? Did he come under? And then that, hour walk or 45-minute walk from there back to your trailer, and you're just going over that run the whole time in your mind of like, then you get back to your trailer and you call your partner and get a game plan, and then you're like, now I got to remember why I'm here. You know what I mean? All this stuff that went on that whole day, and it's so fast. I don't know how
Yes.
it was for you, but like for me, the
Oh,
day went like that. And then all of a sudden, here we are. And now you got to get your mind right. You got to wash all that other stuff off. And you go like, okay, what do them horns look like? What lay of rope do I want? Do I want a fast one? What style of rope do I want to, do I want a spider? Do I want a, GT4, or do I want a, a Triton? What lay? Is his horns big? Do I need a soft? Is he medium? To me, like medium horns, extra soft, like that was my jam. And
yeah.
so then that's I was with you. I always wanted to know what them horns looked like.
Yeah, no, people don't realize how much it is out there, to go sign and start your day off, go sign all day, go to the rodeo, hopefully when they're around, go to South Point or go to dinner with sponsors and friends, and I mean, there's just so much to it out there and to stay focused and mentally sharp and stuff. It's a lot. But yeah, I like same thing because you have to study the steer at the horns, his speed, the way he leaves the chute. I look at everything because if you have one that leaves sharp and steps left, okay, you're gonna know, hey, I need to be able to move my horse over. When I hit the plane of the box, I need to move one step and get in one lane over from where I usually am to open everything up. And then when I hit this steer, I'm gonna have to come up the wall and get him legal and don't give his head back where my partner's gonna slip a leg or something. Don't short face. Like there's just so much to it to study and break down. Or like I told you that one time we had a steer that kind of hopped out of the chutes and had his head low. Like I knew just to go get over the top of him because there was no way I was going to be able to. And that's where we talked about changing the swings. That's one time I did. If you have a steer that's low headed or something, there's no way if he has his shoulders shrugged and flat horns, there's no way you can throw a flat loop and head him that way. You have to get a lot of dip in it, as you know, and get over the top of him. That's the only way to it. So I knew then to go to him, get over the top of him, and set it up. So there's just so much into it that you have to study and look at. There's so much that people don't know.
My new online course, The Basics of Horsemanship for Roping, is now available. This course takes everything we've covered from the basics of roping and puts it into action. You'll learn how to properly use your left hand and feet to create clear cues for your horse and making sure your tack fits your horse correctly. There will be detailed live run breakdowns and real jackpot scenarios. Head over to charlycrawford.training, click under the course tab, and sign up today. If you haven't picked up the basics of roping yet, check out the Basics Bundle. You'll save 20% and get both courses to help take your roping and your horsemanship to the next level.
When you think about where you're at now, going in your third NFR, and then when you talk about like when you and Patrick first started roping, first off, what do you feel like where you're at now? And also, what did it feel like that first day that you and Patrick started roping? You're like, holy moly, there's so much. Like, talk about a little bit of like what it was like that, and then what do you feel like where you're at now?
Well, when I first started, I had one head horse, and when I went and practiced with him, it was so crazy. Like I said, watching all of y'all as a kid, and then to be able for him, somebody I was in the goat pen healing goats and stuff like, or heading like acting like I was you heading in the 10th round at the NFR. I mean, we used to play around with that all the time as kids and act like y'all. And for me to be able to go and have the opportunity to rope with him, it was awesome, but I never knew that day how many details and how much there is into it. Because I knew how to head the steer and rope, but I didn't know this part of it. I've learned so much from then to now, and it's you can't never learn enough. But it's just crazy from from the first time I went there and that first year. I literally told him, I was like, this ain't nothing what I thought it was like. I was like, I just want to go home. Like I'm not. And he's like, he for the first time in his career, he's like, yeah, I want to too, because we got our asses kicked that first year. Like we was in the Northwest, and he's like, no, let's stay and let's work on some things and build on it for next year. So we did and turned it around actually and had a pretty good, decent Northwest. And I was like, man, this ain't nothing like I thought. I thought it was gonna be easy, and it was so hard. But I think some of your biggest losses in life, not just rodeo, or your biggest wins, if that makes any sense. I learned so much of losing that year and to go home and work on it, just like last year. It sucked at this time last year. My two best friends, Caden Profili and Colby, made their first NFR, and for me not to be there to experience it with them and miss it, people don't realize once you make the NFR and then you sit at home and watch it or miss it, it just pisses you off. So, I mean, learning from that and doing whatever it took this year to not be in that position, I think I learned a lot from not making the finals last year because there was times the tour points, the way the tour points and stuff work this nowadays, like Sioux Falls, you have to be at Sioux Falls. It is the best rodeo of the year. I mean, Driggers win 38,000. I won second, won 29,000 or whatever. And then Puyallup. And I went to Abilene. We just had a few tour rodeos left and went at both the rounds. And it don't, you can 40% them over there and you don't win that much, but we went for the points. And I remember Andrew Ward, he just had a barrier and then they blasted one and caught, but he got some tour points. I could have just went over there and been 10 on both steers, been 20 on two, and I would have got into Sioux Falls. But just like knowing, like I said with Driggers, he knows what he needs to do, knows when to go catch. Like you kind of got to think ahead of time about everything. So knowing now, like try to go to all the tour rodeos, get all the tour points you can, because Sioux Falls is major. That's where you don't want to be on the bubble. You don't want to be in and seated there.
Yeah, Driggers does such a good job of knowing he's so aware of his surroundings. He knows what play he needs to run at every situation. He knows what the books are. He knows, the points. He's always been somebody that stays ahead of it, for a lot of young kids and a lot of guys, getting used to or kind of getting into roping, those are the things that I think like, you're always wanting to watch like your style, Dustin style, Clint Summer style, Clay Smith, Cody Snow, to all those guys. I think everyone's going to be watching you guys on social media and recording your guys, screen recording your runs and watching your technique and how everyone sets everything up. And then also too is what you're talking about when you first get here. Man, once you get the technique down on the rope, and sometimes that's almost the easy part.
Hmm.
When you get out there and how you deal with losses, how you deal with drawing bad, how you deal with not getting upright, how you deal with trades, how you deal with getting your rigs and stuff, and maneuvering stuff around to get to the rodeos. And, it's almost like after a while, like the roping, you kind of just have to trust because, man, that other part can get, knowing what horse to ride, like you said earlier, where if I've got a horse that scores good and I can use my rope, that horse probably needs to go to Livingston, Montana. Then whatever horse right there can gain, like that one probably needs to go to, Prescott or, whatever it is to where you're trying to manage all the little details to where, because that is, you think of the little mistakes that a guy makes as he's learning, throughout his career, those tenths of seconds add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of the year, and so
No,
all those little things when people are talking about, man, you team ropers or headers, man, you guys, Kyle, you break it down too much. Well, when you think about the tenths of seconds that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout the year, it's those little details that, you don't want to overlook.
yeah, for sure. Just like the first year I made the finals, I lost to Gold Buckle by like 12,000 or something, the Driggers, but I was also like 100,000 behind or something. But you look at like what could I have done to win a gold buckle, or last year, what mistakes did I make besides the tour point steal to, instead of losing the finals by 4,000, where did I could have done better to put myself in this position? And another thing is being able to, there's sometimes I've drove an hour out of the way to go practice at somebody's house because my horse ain't scoring right. He's not facing right. He's not running through, like when I'm throwing, he's getting short and kind of checking off. He's not staying through my throw. And because the roping part's the easy part, like you said, it's all the other stuff. Mental game. Mental game is huge out there. You get down on yourself out there and I'm telling you, it's gonna go way worse. You kinda gotta stay you just gotta fix it as the bad stuff happens and kinda because you can't do anything else, but I think the mental part of it is very, very huge out there.
With you, buddying with T Wade throughout the year, do you guys have a lot of good conversations with each other when you guys are in slumps?
Yeah, I tell you what, he is the buddying with them guys is entertaining as you can tell, but I will say he is the most easiest going positive person there is. I watched him miss. So first year he wrote with Thorpe, we buddy that first year and has best healer in the world. He's already kind of worried about it. That it ain't starting off that great. He misses I mean, 8 of them in a row. He's just throwing and just cannot catch, and I'm like, "What?" And he'd laugh about it. He would get in the car and just like, "Oh, I guess it's gotta come to sometime," and he would just like he shakes it off and just knows it's coming. It's just he just kinda watches film and stuff and figures it out, and Thorpe I tell you what, he never got down on him, and that's another thing is when you're in a slump, you gotta be there for your partner because you're gonna be in one, he's gonna be in one, but, like, you gotta be there for them, not go behind their backs, you gotta amp them up, and because that's the worst thing you can do, I feel like, is when you're roping bad and they're having to worry about if you're gonna get cut or what everything else is going on, and them guys are true team players, I will say that. They've been an amazing team and being able to be around them. I think iron sharpens iron, and being around them guys has been pretty awesome. It's been cool. And buddied with them for 2 years. This is our third year to buddy. He's won 2 gold buckles, so he didn't want to go buckle until I buddied with him, just so he knows. So, but it's
He texted me to take his time last year, and he's like, "Chuck, do you know what I love so much about rodeoing?" And I'm like, the money, the travel, the girls, what it's hard to say what could be the best thing in the world for T-Wade about, about rodeoing. He texted me back, he goes, "Absolutely nothing." He goes, "I've missed like the last 10 steers." He said, "The closest thing I've came to catching one is I waved it off a huge horn steer at Napa. That's the closest I've had to catching it as I had it, and then it went off." And he said the horns were huge. I said,
he,
"Well,
I'm
now I
telling
see
you,
why now I see
he would get in slumps and miss, and there would be times I couldn't miss, and I would finally miss 1 out of 10 and just pop it off or something. I'd be like, "Ah, this is so stupid. Why do we do this?" Like, I'm pissed off, and he's like, "Don't even start with me. Are you serious right now? I've just missed 9 or 10 in a row, and you missed 1 steer, and now you're gonna come at me with that? I don't wanna hear it." But I can't it's funny because I tell him that now that I've been around him and seen it, I tell him every year, I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "You Caldwell's coming around." I said, "That week, there's something about them rodeos." And that's another
and it's
thing.
more."
There's certain rodeos I have that I love. Don't matter what I draw or what happens, it's just meant for me to win at. I've done good at. Nampa's one of them, but like the T Wade had Ogden Spanish, he wins them every year. And when he gets on a heater, he
Every
don't stop. He's just so he's got where he was like, "Man, I ain't even worried about it. Like, I just know I'm gonna miss a bunch, and then I'm streaky. He said, just call me streaky." He said, "You never know when it's coming." He tells Wesley, "Just be ready, because when it comes, it's gonna come in spurts."
Yeah.
But yeah, they're
Yeah, and he ain't
amazing to
wrong.
buddy with because you have to have guys, like I said, when he missed and was in slump, he'd be the first person to tell me good job and break it down and just happy for me. Like you gotta have that guy. And you also gotta have a buddy team that brings stuff to the table, that's all in, sending rigs, displays, doing whatever it takes to help enter. And I mean, it's just he's been amazing to buddy with, him and Thor. So there's a
Yeah,
lot
people that
lot
stay on top of things, good rigs, being able to have, opportunities to get from one rodeo to the next is so important, professional. But I'm telling you, man, that laughter in the rig is so, so important. I remember, one year I got to buddy with Turtle Powell, probably one of the best years I got to rope. And then one year, Jim Ross and I were roping up there in Canada, and we were up the same, almost all the same for about 1 month as Trevor and Patrick. And I'm telling you, laughed and laughed. And same thing, like I noticed like how much better I roped when there was humor in the rig and things were light. And you just feel the monkey off your back, the tension's cut, and and those are fun. And T Wade, man, I told him I don't know how long, like, man, you are missing such an entrepreneuring opportunity that there needs to be some T-shirts of. I know he could come up with a saying on sticking a brisket. You know what I'm saying? Like he should
Yes.
have a T-shirt,
I
some kind of brisket.
There's never a dull moment. I'm telling you, he picks at me all the time and we pick back, but that is whenever you're having you can put the best healer in the world and the best header in the world together, but when you're having fun is what's dangerous. I feel like the chemistry, you're having fun, that's when everything is just flowing. But whenever you're just down and it's not fun and stuff's going, you're like it ain't gonna get better. You got to stay positive and you're gone away from home and your family and stuff that if they don't get to go with you and travel, I mean, it's hard enough to be gone. That's one thing I dread leaving home for them that long time. So to be around good character and people, I mean, if we have a good time, it's entertaining for sure.
Yeah, you think about Thanksgiving coming up, and there is no way that T Wade's not ordering a brisket for Thanksgiving. You talk about
It-
somebody that's thankful for a brisket. There's
you,
no way
you,
he's getting turkey.
you
There's got to
better
be brisket. I guarantee you for Thanksgiving around that Wade house
you
in Thorpe.
better you, you better watch it because he's starting to get a little butthurt about it. The other day I talked to him and he was breakaway in steers because he says, I'm about to figure out how to catch the horns. I'm tired of everybody messing with me. I said, wait, I said, you won the world the last 2 years. You have the target on your back. Why are you changing anything? Your style is different than that. Everybody's different. I said, why change now? You're T Wade for a reason. You wouldn't be T Wade without all that. And he's like, yeah, I'm just getting old. I'm getting irritated with it. I'm just about to show him I can head the horns. I don't just rope the neck. But then, like,
That's fun.
have a guy that's like, I'm OCD, clean freak about everything, and T Wade's the same way, organized, everything. So to have somebody like that, and then Thorpe, he don't care. He don't care.
I was
He
gonna
stayed at
say
my
that's one of the things T Wade sent me. He said, "What was it like keeping the trailer clean, budding with Thorpe?"
dude. The hardest we laughed was last year. I just mopped, cleaned my trailer, and me and Wade's in there just hanging out. And Thorpe, he comes in there in his boots and spurs, just plops up on the step. You walk up to the bed with cow shit all over his boots and pants, just all over my trailer. And this Wade bust out laughing. He's like, "What are y'all making fun of me about now?" And he's like, "You just don't even know, brother. You don't even know." So it's just fun. It's funny how it is because they stayed at my house the other day. Whenever we flew in and come to your open, and he gets here and he he goes to take a shower, and I show him the guest room and stuff. He opens his suitcase in the hallway by my kitchen and gets what he's gonna wear to bed out, leaves his suitcase open, his MB4 laying beside it, and his hat just laid out over there, and goes to the shower. So I'm just Wade's laughing, and I go get it, put it in his room. He gets out of the shower and he walks over there, scratches his head, walks around the deal, and he's like, "All right, Tim, man, I know I put it right where you didn't want it. Now where's my suitcase?" It's just funny how they are. And then,
That is
I
funny.
mean, when I was roping with Patrick, I didn't know, like, getting there, cleaning the trailer out, making sure you get the horses out, making sure they're rode and stuff. Like, I didn't really look into all that. And then when Marshall colicked and stuff, it was because he was dehydrated. And whenever we got to where we were going, I was just getting the bus and let our driver take care of everything. Well, he was dehydrated and was actually trying to colic in the trailer. Well, Patrick thought, he kinda semi or something ran him off the road. The slants were all messed up, so whenever I went to lead him in the arena to, turn him out, let him roll or let him run around, he just as soon as we stepped foot on the sand, he started rolling with the halter on, and he's never done that before, and as soon as he hit the ground, it kinda come to me, natural instinct. I was like, "This ain't right," and then he was colicking, so ever since then, I didn't even have a driver this year. I went by myself. My girlfriend, she stays at home and has a full-time job, so just to be able to watch my horses, take care of them, put them up, the older you get and witness everything, like, if I'd have lost him, like, that was the biggest purchase of my life and career. He's irreplaceable, so, I mean, T-Way's the same way. He babies his horses, takes care of everything, takes care of business. So like it's good to be that way, you know.
He was talking about too when Thorpe's bus AC didn't work at Pecos.
My goodness. Oh, dude. Yeah, we had a long haul and we were back there and it was so hot. We were in our shorts, just laid up in the bed, just sweating. Hey, Thor's like, "What's wrong with you guys?" And we're like, "Oh, nothing." They're driving down the road just with their head out the window. It was, I mean, we have so many memories.
Windows
It's
rolled down.
windows rolled down. I mean, then we're laying on the bed and it's hot. And then water starts coming down from the ceiling and just drenches like rain. And we're sitting on this bed and Wade's like, "Oh my gosh." It was, I mean, there's been so many freaking, it's been a crazy
Well,
few
and you
years.
think too, like when those things happen. I remember one year I had one of my trucks, the AC just quit working, and you're just out there, got the windows rolled down, and you're like, man, at one point in time, like those gladiators before us, like T Woman and a lot of those guys rode in out of Texas in the 80s and late 70s, like there was no AC in a lot of those rigs. You think about those guys going down to, what was it, down to South Texas, the George Strait when it was in
Oh,
July.
yeah.
It was, remember when it was down south? Like, and you're thinking
Yeah.
about guys going down, no AC, oh,
Kingsville,
none of
wasn't it?
that stuff.
Was it
What was it?
Kingsville? Was it in
Kingville.
King?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're
I
like,
can only,
and that's when you're like, man, those guys paved the way, man. Those guys were gladiators when they rodeoed.
no, I can only imagine how it was hearing stories from everybody back in the day of the maps, how to call and enter, and there was no text messages, emails, reminders like there is every morning for PRCA, and then like the rodeos, how many they went to, and the way they try. Like I can, it's I give props to those guys because that's just,
You know?
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how it was.
Yeah, yeah, it was T. Woolman's is still one of my favorite podcasts. I think in 1980 he went to 137 rodeos and turned out three in a
Gosh,
gas pickup with a stock trailer, single axle, and hotels everywhere.
one of the
It's
best,
wild. It's
one of the
wild.
best stories about T. So I knew T really good before I started roping with Patrick, and that's who Patrick first started roping with. There are so many stories. He's the best one I remember. He roped a leg somewhere, and he ordered one little chicken leg and something at the chicken place, and T went back up there and ordered another one and grabbed it and slammed it on his place. He said, "You don't ever order one leg around here. That's our problem." He said, "You order two." That I remember that. Yeah, that one right there stuck on me. That one was funny. But yeah, T, he's a good old dude.
I love it. I love it. What I seen where you guys got a documentary series now on X Factor. Was I think you and Patrick, T Wade and Thorpe, called No Guarantee. Talk
Yes,
a little
sir.
bit about that. That's pretty cool. Where X Factor is kind of venturing into the documentary part of things. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, some good friends of Tyler's that I've got to meet, Win and Winston. He did all the filming and stuff, and when he flew us around in his plane, and I mean, to be able to do that and to be a part of that starting and for X Factor and all them to be, it's been pretty cool. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, it was 2 years ago, and they're just getting it. They're wanting to do a season two of it for now, and Tyler has all these big plans for it, and we got some stuff, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's been pretty cool to be able to do it and stuff. And now them getting this season one out and knowing what to do and everything, I think it'll be good because, like I said, it was 2 years ago, so and it just coming out, everybody's thinking it's kind of new stuff, but it's older stuff. So and it's been really good. So to be able
Yeah, so
to
good to be able for a lot of people to kind of see what it looks like when you pull the curtain back.
yeah, for
And see what it
sure.
really.
Yeah, for sure, and that's what, I think if to get that going and see the everyday lifestyle and the stuff that happens on the road, the behind scenes stuff that people don't see, it's crazy, you know? So I think it's been really cool for that deal to come out and be a part of it.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know everything's busy with what all's going on, but man, I appreciate you coming on for the NFR and wish nothing but the best of luck to you. It was awesome getting to sit and talk team roping with you. So
Well,
you guys
thank you.
kicked their butt
Yeah.
out there.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank
All
you,
right,
Mr.
man.
Charlie.
You good?
Yes, sir. Thank
You
you.
bet.